Good evening, everyone. Would you please join us in a salute to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2015 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2014, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
This right here. Mr. Brownlee?
Here.
Mrs. Larrier? Here. Ms. Leventhal? Here. Mr. Ryan? Here. Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Mayor, Mrs. Fritzen is absent this evening, and Ms. Harrison is here, and I'm going to assist her with everyone's consent. Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public in any meeting, and where it is the desire of this governing body to comply with the provisions of this act, and at the same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood that it does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 16th meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. We're meeting meeting tonight, a special night because we have the League of Municipality meeting. That's a conference that starts tomorrow, and we will be down there, or most of us will be down there. This evening, we're going to start with a public comment period on agenda items. Some of you may be here to talk about the ordinance that's coming up on the post office. That is number 9, and we'll have a specific hearing for the post office. So if you'd like to speak at that time, I would urge you to come up at that time. We are going to follow our bylaws that we adopt every January, and that is during public speaking. We're going to limit the comments to 5 minutes maximum. That's both in the first public comment session and in the last public comment session, because we have a pretty jammed agenda this evening with presentation from the library. We'll also have, then we'll have a presentation to the governing body on the library and the proposed development. We'll then have a public hearing, which will be run by our township engineer. Someone will do it, on the community development block grant to install an elevator in the Woodland. And we actually need everyone here, if they would sign an attendance list. If we could send around an attendance list. Mr. Curry, you could take care of that, because it's important for us to show the county that actual bodies are sitting in the seats when we do this hearing, so it's helpful. We have an ordinance on final passage to purchase an ambulance. We have an ordinance on final, and we'll have a hearing at that time. I'll ask if anyone would like to come up and speak about that ordinance. We have an ordinance on final passage or authorizing an amendment and assignment of a tax agreement for the post office property. And again, if you'd like to speak about that, I'll ask folks to come up at that time. We have 2 discussion items, one to establish a township sustainability committee, and the second, we're going to just go over the changes to Springfield Avenue redevelopment plan, which we've talked about before. Our consent agenda consists of a change order for the municipal pool parking lot improvements. We're doing some budget transfers. Typically, you can't do budget transfers in the state of New Jersey until November, so you're going to see a lot of these at all of our meetings. This is when we can move money around. Authorizing the purchase of the emergency vehicle. We're doing some other business around a Board of Adjustment file, a performance that was done. Bills and claims we're approving November 4th minutes of both the open and closed sessions, and also approving a taxi license. We'll have a second public comment period. We'll have administrative reports, reports from elected officials, and then we will adjourn. I just want to let everyone know that the police are here, not because Mr. Desiderio is helping out and keeping an eye on him, but because we asked the police and the engineer to be here in case anyone had some questions related to the traffic and traffic calming. I can report that since our last meeting, we have installed temporary speed humps on Prospect Street. I want to thank Mr. Ryan, actually, because subsequent to our meeting in which we heard from residents about their concerns, we had a planning and engineering committee, which Mr. Ryan chairs, and we discussed this, and the idea was to put these we purchased rubber speed humps, and we've done this in other parts of Maplewood. It gives us an opportunity to put the speed humps in. We do some installation data testing, and we'll do some post-installation testing. It allows us to see how, if it has affected the speed, affects the volume, and also if cars have migrated to other roads. So that's one of the issues you always have to worry about when you put a hump on X street. Will the cars go on Y and Z and A and B street? So we have those there now. I can attest that you do feel them when you drive over them, and hopefully, we'll continue to do that. I also had the opportunity with the chief and Captain Williams and Lieutenant Sally. We met with parents and administrators at Tuscan School, and we're going to be doing some work in and around that school, on Prospect, on Valley, on some of the other schools. We're going to be looking at crosswalk improvements as far as painting and making it more visible. We're going to look at Valley. There's some issue on sight lines. One of the things we're going to talk about some more with the county is how to, if there's a better way we can deal with that crosswalk that we have down at Pearson, on South Pearson. So we are moving forward on these. We're keeping our ear to the ground, trying to come up with creative solutions for this. So thank you. I don't know if, at some point, if we don't get comments, you all can take off, or you can stick around and see what the library is going to do. So we'll start with the first public comment session. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to the Township Committee? Mr. Harvey?
Hi, my name is John Harvey, and I'm located at 8 Inwood Place in Maplewood, New Jersey. I noticed on the agenda tonight you have a public hearing regarding the installation of an elevator at the Woodland.
Yes. What
I would ask is context for that conversation. If you can share some updated numbers or plans around the development of the Woodland. I know when Joe testified a few months ago, he said it was roughly $1 million sale price, $2 million to completely renovate, and $56,000 in income. And I understand this year it even might be below that. So any plans you have to make that a viable venue and to get the repairs done? The elevator is a great start from a disability standpoint. That would be appreciated. And just another comment, I know the enforcement is on the agenda. I think that one of the biggest issues with the speeding and parking is the citizens' behavior, and maybe there's an opportunity for a resident awareness about slowing down or stopping at lights. And I sit at Baker and Maplewood Avenue every morning and have my coffee, and I don't think anybody stops at that stop sign. And you're not going to be there all the time, so maybe there's an awareness program we could consider. Thank you.
Actually, Mr. Harvey, if you want to just take a moment and speak to one of the officers here and give them like times a day and stuff like that, it might be useful when you're seeing that. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee at this time? Okay, if not, we'll move to the presentation to the governing body by the library.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Kate McCaffrey. I'm the president of the Maplewood Library Board of Trustees, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak before the Township Committee tonight. And I'm here to urge the Township to invest in the future of the library. The library is the heart of our community. Every day, 1,000 people walk through our doors. Our library system is perhaps the most democratic expression of our wonderful, vibrant town. We reach every demographic, young and old, Black and white, professional and unemployed, citizen and immigrant, student and senior, pre-literate and bookworm. We serve everyone. We offer story hours to our youngest residents and deliver books to the homebound elderly. We provide a safe space for teens after school and job resources for workers in transition. We bridge the digital divide with our public computers, Wi-Fi, and databases. We have large public lectures, art exhibits, and live music. Maplewood is an unusually literate, and I should just add, and good-looking town, and a library-intensive community. 83% of Maplewood residents, nearly 20,000 people, has a library card. This represents a 35% increase from 1960, shortly after both branches opened. And our library card holding is strikingly higher than the national average of 64%. In short, Maplewood residents love their library. Despite the rise of e-books, computers, and the internet, the library remains a vital multi-use space. Not only is the library relevant, it is important in new ways, providing public space in an era of privatization and free access to information and technology. The challenge we face now is that the buildings that were designed in the 1950s no longer provide the infrastructure to offer 21st century services. We are seeing a rising demand for materials. Reading is up and our collection has expanded to meet demand. Our floor space, however, remains the same. In 1960, both buildings housed a collection of 68,000 items. Today, the library holds over 130,000 items, and over the years, reading areas have been replaced with book stacks, limiting spaces to meet and study. Unlike 60 years ago when our primary activity was checking out books, today, Maplewood residents come into the library to stay. Patrons still check out books, but they come to the library to use public computers, laptops, and iPads. They access Wi-Fi on their own devices. They download ebooks and e-audiobooks. They access our databases and local history collections. They work and study independently and in groups. They attend the 20 to 40 library and community programs and events that are scheduled every week. The demand for internet and computers is overwhelming. Our outdated electrical and data infrastructure, however, no longer meet the current demand and will be woefully inadequate within the next 5 years. We are confronted again and again with problems stemming from our aging infrastructure. Currently, we spend more on utilities than we do on books. We don't have nearly enough outlets. The windows in the Hilton Library don't open. When heavy rain damaged the Hilton air conditioning system last June, we reduced hours and rotated staff to keep the library operating in oven-like conditions. We are hamstrung by asbestos in the dropped ceilings and floors, which restrict changes that we can make to existing space without costly abatement. We need a modern facility that not only meets current needs, but that anticipates the future. One reality we need to consider is climate change. The main library was Maplewood's primary point of refuge during Hurricane Sandy, yet its proximity to the Rahway River and the Hilton siting on a floodplain by Maplecrest Park demand attention to the library's vulnerability. Both buildings have water infiltration and flooding issues in the lower stack and basement areas, which are below the water table. We should anticipate that water problems will become considerably worse in the next several decades. The library board has authorized the expenditure of funds towards a building plan for a new 21st century facility. Tonight, we are seeking your support to invest in our library's future. Maplewood residents deserve a library that will reflect our community's energy and vitality, nurture its intellectual curiosity, and strengthen the bonds of its citizenry. We urge the Township Committee to support the modernization of our library and to match the Library Board's $15,000 commitment towards the cost of commissioning a conceptual plan. The library is the heart of our wonderful community. Thank you for your consideration. I'd like to introduce next the Honorable Ben Cohen, who will speak on behalf of the Maplewood Library Foundation.
Thank you, Kate. Good evening, Mayor, members of the Township Committee.
Good evening, Judge.
I'm Ben Cohen. I'm president of the Maplewood Memorial Library Foundation, an entity that we formed approximately 4 years ago with one single purpose, and that is to raise money to support the Maplewood Library. I myself moved to Maplewood in 1947 with my parents when I was 3 years old. That was nearly 70 years ago. I've lived in Maplewood virtually my entire life. I love this town. Now, the third generation of my family, if you count my parents, it's really the fourth generation of my family, my grandchildren are going through our school system here. When I was 12 years old, I entered the 7th grade at what was then Maplewood Junior High. I looked across the street, across Baker Street, at our brand new Maplewood Library. The year was 1956. That was nearly 60 years ago. A few years later, in 1958-59, the Hilton branch was built in Maple Crest Park, a park where I used to ride my bike to play baseball. You see the motto that was up there before? Can you go back one slide? As we build today, our children will build tomorrow. I'm one of those children, and I'm here to ask you for help today. Today is tomorrow. I'm now 71 years old. There's a lot of wear and tear on me. The clothes my mom bought me in 1956, they don't fit me anymore. I've outgrown them. And those clothes would no longer be appropriate for the use I need as a 71-year-old lawyer. The buildings that together comprise our library system have a lot of wear and tear on them too, as you've seen from some of the photos and heard from Kate McCaffrey. They are 20th century facilities, and they no longer meet the needs of the citizens of Maplewood now that we are 15 years into the 21st century. Both facilities are now too small for the needs of a modern library, and both are no longer appropriately configured for those needs. We must expand and reconfigure our facilities to bring our library system into the 21st century and provide the people of Maplewood with the library they need and the library they deserve. To achieve this goal, our foundation proposes a public-private partnership to fund and to build a 20th century library for the people of Maplewood. The library board, the board of directors of the library, and our foundation have already begun to work towards this goal. Our foundation has hired a grant writer who has already submitted grant proposals to us, for us, I should say, and provided us with a list of potential grant sources for capital funding. We've begun interviewing people for the purpose of conducting a feasibility study to identify sources of private funds that we intend to raise, and we are looking into retaining a professional fundraiser. While we do not know, as we stand here today, the exact cost it will take to bring our library into the 21st century, we estimate that it will take about $15 million. Now, Mayor, members of the Township Committee, I know that's a lot of money, but this is an investment for the future of every citizen of Maplewood. And I'm here to tell you that that investment will inure to the benefit of everyone who lives in the town, not just for decades to come, but for generations to come. We will have to deal with asbestos abatement, water issues, planning costs, architectural costs, construction costs, electrical wiring, etc. Our library director, Sarah Lester, who you'll meet in a moment, sent you last week the library building program, a document I have here. I hope you had a chance to read it. If you haven't, I commend it to your attention. It gives a lot of the detail in the background to show what we really need for a 21st century library. We currently have two facilities which total approximately 20,000 square feet above ground about 7,000 square feet below ground level. Our library director estimates a need for a total of about 35,000 square feet just in the main branch alone to house what would be a proper 21st century library. If you do the math, 35,000 square feet times $400 a square foot, which is what we are told typically costs to build libraries today, that's $14 million. And then we'll need furniture, computers, and other equipment. Our foundation hopes to be able to raise approximately $3 million over a 3 to 5 year period. We will need at least $12 million in public funds over that 3 to 5 year period, and that's the amount we are humbly asking the Township Committee to provide. The strength of Maplewood is, and always has been, its people. Just recently, we won a contest for having the best downtown in New Jersey. We won that contest because of the spirit and strength of the people of this town who pulled together to win that award. The people of Maplewood need and deserve a 21st century library. For more than a century, our library has been the heart and soul of our community, the intellectual center of the community, along with its excellent school system. We call upon you now, you, the duly elected representatives of the people of Maplewood, to do the right thing by investing in the future. For all the people of Maplewood, do it once so it lasts for our children and our grandchildren, and do it now when we so sorely need it. And right now, we have an extraordinary asset, I'm proud to say. Our library director, Sarah Lester. I'm going to embarrass her now. Sarah is talented, energetic, experienced, bursting with ideas, and committed to Maplewood. She is just the person we need to lead our library into the 21st century. For all of these reasons, we urge you, do it right. Do it now. Do it once for generations. Thank you for hearing us out. And now I think Sarah is going to add some slides to our
I
presentation.
think you can clap for that. That was pretty good. Thank you, Judge.
It's only good if it works, Mayor.
Well, you have a judge here and a former mayor here, so we're a little intimidated, but Ms. Lester.
Yes. Well, thank you, Ben, and thank you, Kate. Now here we are in Maplewood. We have two buildings, both with flat and imposing facades. They're both rather protective rather than inviting. And during the last year, library trustees, staff, and friends of the library toured newly constructed and renovated libraries in the tri-state area. We saw firsthand how new library facilities incorporate rapid changes in library service and information technology, as well as the impact these libraries have had on their communities. This is the Darien Library, a newly constructed library serving a community with the same population as Maplewood. And this is a renovated library in Ridgefield. It was originally a small Carnegie building that was expanded with a large addition off the back. And this is the Stapleton Library on Staten Island. It's a branch of the New York Public Library. The small Carnegie branch no longer met the needs of its community. The newly expanded and renovated library is now a community center and a point of great pride in the neighborhood. And this is the Kingsbridge branch of the New York Public Library in the Bronx. It is built across the street from the smaller original branch library that was built in the 60s. The Kingsbridge branch has a green roof, and as you will see later, a very effective means of using below-ground space. And this is the Mariners Harbor branch of the New York Public Library, also on Staten Island. This is the newest branch of New York Public Library, built in a community that did not have a branch library. We've toured traditional and modern libraries, but all the libraries we toured had lots of natural light, high ceilings, and beautiful and inspiring reading rooms. This is the reading room at the Darien Library, modeled loosely after the Rose Reading Room of the New York Public Library. The other commonality of all the libraries we saw is learning spaces in their libraries. This is the T Room, which stands for Technology, Engineering, and Art at the Darien Library, which is in close proximity to their children's room. And it's a program room focusing on STEM education. There's a big demand for private and group study areas in all libraries, and this is no exception in Maplewood. Our quiet rooms are constantly in use, and we turn away people daily. These are 2 rooms at the Darien Library, one a conference room and one a writer's room. New libraries also use their meeting spaces as a source of revenue. And this is the reading area at the Stapleton Library, which also, in a much more modern way, but capitalizes on the natural light and high ceilings in the branch. And this is the teen area, also at the Stapleton Library. So beautiful, inspiring spaces throughout the library for all ages. Transparency of space is another commonality that we saw. The sight lines in our buildings have been blocked due to lack of space and the addition of bookcases. This is the program room at Stapleton, which appears more expansive than it is due to the glass walls and high ceilings. And here we are back in Maplewood. The one thing that we have that none of these libraries had is an incredible site. The main library sits on Memorial Park and the Hilton branch on Maple Crest Park. Our plan for our 21st library will engage our surroundings and celebrate the beauty of our town. And this is the Children's Library at the Stapleton branch, and this is in their old Carnegie part, but showing how you can meld an old traditional library with a newer modern addition. And this is the children's space at the Kingsbridge branch, which is below ground, but very bright and cheerful. And the teen area at the Hamilton Grange branch of the New York Public Library. Teen spaces, in a lot of new libraries have stadium seatings, and we know in Maplewood that our teens love to sit on our steps, so I think this would go over well here. And lounge seating, as well as a gallery space for teen art exhibits. And this is a multimedia space at the Hamilton Grange Library. And Hamilton Grange was my first library, and it did not look like this when I was there in 1996. And then below ground options were very interesting at the Kingsbridge branch. So this is going downstairs to where the children's room is, and they use a stone moat-like structure surrounding the building to bring in light underground. All the buildings we visited were designed with flexibility of space to accommodate future change. And you can see this is at the Ridgefield Library, that their bookcases are on wheels. And technology is something that we've tried, to keep up with. And this shows the Darien Library has a whole automated book return system and also RFID technology. And automation, this shows inside their book return, and their book return is fully automated. And finally, we're back at the Stapleton Library. Libraries transform their communities. This is the Stapleton Library again. The newly constructed building has not only generated community pride, it has also stimulated economic development. Closer to home, we know that realtors in Livingston regularly bring potential homeowners into the Livingston Public Library. This is true in other communities with newly constructed libraries as well. As we plan for Maplewood's future, we look forward to working with the Township Committee and the entire Maplewood community to build our 21st century library and our community beacon. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
I have to tell you, my mother grew up right near Stapleton, so I've been to that library prior to this work. It's not the same building. It's incredible. Absolutely
The
incredible.
usage has exploded because of it, everything, the whole community has.
Use the mic because it's being recorded for
You know what they
purposes.
said, what they told us in Stapleton, I mean, it really, the library has changed the community. And because they now have this newly built library and a very energized staff, they've garnered all sorts of grants, and they've gone, they've done very innovative services, and it really has become a model for the whole entire New York Public Library system.
Just ask you a couple questions if I could. Is your thought that you would build on what's there now, or are we thinking about a new building completely?
Well, our next step is really to do an RFQ for a conceptual plan. And I think we need to rely on an expert to tell us what's possible on our current site, and then go from there.
And question for Kate. You talked about that the library has allocated $15,000 for a planning study, and you're requesting $15,000 match from the township,
Yes.
and this would be in 2016?
Well, the sooner the better.
Good answer.
I mean, yeah, we kind of want to get rolling, so.
Mr. Manning, would this be eligible as a capital grant if it was planning for capital work?
Oh, sorry. I think we can use capital money for planning of a project.
Okay, great. And Judge, could I ask you a couple questions?
Can't promise an answer, but sure.
The $15 million that you talked about, you thought you could realistically raise 3 in the private sector. Do you have any sense of that coming from local individuals, foundations? Are you thinking of all corporations? Are you thinking of all that?
We're thinking it's going to come from all sources. Certainly, local individuals, I think, would be the primary key, both, individuals of means, but also widespread support from the community, we hope. But we are going to explore grants from foundations, corporations, and perhaps even gifts in kind. I mean, we've heard in other places where, you need money, but you also need equipment and things. I mean, donations of computers, of technological devices, of furniture and things like that. We're not going to leave no stone unturned.
Anyone have any other questions? Did you want to mention or recognize any other members of the foundation board that are with you, Judge?
Well, we have a couple here. We have Ariel Cohen, who happens to be my niece on our foundation board. We have, and of course, Ellen. Ellen really is the foundation board.
Former Mayor Ellen Davenport.
Former Mayor Ellen Davenport. She's the heart and soul of our foundation. And I don't think that's it. There are some other library trustees.
And we have some trustees here. Would you like to recognize them?
I have Deborah Purden over here. She doubles as a trustee and a friend.
Right.
And Carol Buchanan, we couldn't exist without Carol Buchanan, right here. And
David Humer.
Oh, David Humer. Hello, David Humer. And we have a lot of librarians. And we have spouses. Should we introduce
No,
the
that's
spouses?
okay. That's all right. That's all right. I can see you packed the
If I could
crowd.
just take 15 more seconds of your time, I just want to say one thing. You 5 individuals have an opportunity to really leave a mark in this town. As I've said, I love this town. I've been here forever. For me, it's forever. It's only since 1947. But I implore you to think about that. We're talking about something that's going to last for generations. I'm thinking of children and grandchildren. I love that one slide which said, we're doing this for our children, because they were. And we're asking you to do the same thing.
Thank you. Everybody else okay?
I like the slide with the people holding the library cards.
Yeah, especially the one on the right bottom. Yes, I got it. Yeah. Sure.
So, we've spent a lot of time talking about our facilities, but we would be nothing without the people who work in them. So I do want to acknowledge all of our great staff that are here tonight. So thank you.
Okay. So there's no truth to the plan that library fees are going to go like to $400 a day, right? To pay for this? Just for some people. I'll let my wife know, but I think she was late. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming out. And we're not going to have as creative a presentation, but we will talk a little bit about the Community Development Block Grant. Mr. Manning, who's going to handle that? Mr. Malavasi?
While you're here, numbers count. Yes, we'd like you to sign the sheet that you.
Yes, could everybody please make sure they sign that sign-up sheet?
Send it around, please. Yeah, like we normally do. Okay.
So photogenic.
You. Sonia.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
We are here for the first of two public hearings we need to hold for our annual 2016 Community Development Block Grant application, something we do every year. This year, we want to apply for a grant to install an elevator at 60 Woodland Road at the Woodland to increase handicap accessibility and the use of the building. Historically, we've gotten in the range of $102,000 to $170,000 from the county. That, of course, depends upon level of funding from HUD. We've been very successful over the last 10 years, and as long as HUD maintains their funding, I anticipate somewhere in that range of $102,000 to $170,000 for 2016. The elevator will go in the core of the building where there was a dumbwaiter in the building that's been abandoned. It'll go in the core, so it'll access all the lobbies, and then because of the use of the third floor that we anticipate, we will need to build a stair tower out the rear for accessibility to meet code. Folks to get out. It's a secondary means of egress, so there are two stairways to get out from the third floor.
And is this project dealing with both of those or just with the elevator?
Both.
Both.
Well, you have to build them in conjunction.
Is there anyone who would, I'm sorry, do you have anything else?
No.
Any Township Committee questions on this? Anyone from the audience have a question?
I'm sorry, just, again, the order of magnitude of the project, the overall.
Project?
The overall order of magnitude of this particular improvement.
I have my architect doing a small feasibility study, but I spoke with him today, and the number he gave me was about where I thought it'll be in the range of $300,000 total.
Thank you.
And we would anticipate budgeting for that in 2017.
Okay. So we see this elevator is not being ready in 2016.
That's correct.
Is there anyone who would like to ask a question about this application we're going to be making to the county? Okay. Well, let's close that hearing, but we had Mr. Harvey asked a couple questions about the work we've done, the bigger plan. I think initially we went in there to stabilize the building. Is that correct?
Correct. We stabilized the building. We built, we upgraded the bathrooms. We built additional handicap accessible bathrooms on the lower level and the first floor. We've done some work on the doors. We insulated the Great Hall to provide not only energy efficiency, but soundproofing. Which, along with that, we redid a lot of the ceiling tiles that came out very nice. We are currently working on redoing some of the doors that have fallen into disrepair. And then in 2016, we budgeted money to upgrade the kitchen.
Make it a functioning kitchen, one that we can use for cooking.
And
Correct.
And we also did the parking lot.
And the parking lot. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes.
In the parking lot, okay. And part of the issue of using the third floor is we can't use it right now until we get both the elevator and the secondary accesses.
Yes, as a public building, we need to provide handicapped accessible for our folks that want to use it. The lower floor and the second floor now are handicap accessible. The third floor is not, and that's what we want to use that in the future. We need to make it handicap accessible.
And Mr. Manning, when we were doing this work, we saw that third floor as an opportunity for nonprofits, for arts activity, to just really generate some activities up there in addition to a small meeting space.
Yes, for a goal of trying to be an incubator to groups and to also have some of our own staff up there to handle the building when it's in use, et cetera. So the space up there is an incredible space, and we'd like to make use of it. It's about a third of the building.
Right. And Mr. Manning, just give us a sense, the building is being used every week. I know right now the Furry Hearts are having their ball there, the Broadway Furry Heart Ball there, but it's being used every week for different things?
Yes, it is. There are some times that it's not in use, but overall it has increasingly been used, particularly during the cooler months, September through May.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Malavasi, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. We have an appointment to a board. Ms. Leventhal?
Yes, our pool advisory committee has openings. Sandra Eisman from Jennifer Lane has requested to serve on the pool advisory committee and has been coming to meetings for about a year. She's retired as a social worker, contributes volunteer hours in many different aspects of the community, and has been a resident for 37 years as a pool member. So I'd like to appoint her, and she would be attending all the meetings and voting on recommendations to the Township Committee. So I make a motion to appoint Sandra Eisman of Jennifer Lane to the Pool Advisory Committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Great
Let's have the roll call. We have a roll call.
Yes. Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Okay, Mr. Yablonsky, we're going to just insert you here. If you can just come up. We don't want you to hang out all night.
Mayor, may I just interrupt? I'm sorry. Is there something that Mrs. Fritz normally does to new appointees that should be done with this appointee?
Yes, she will need to know to send a letter letting Ms. Eisman know that she is appointed.
Appointed to that committee, and then the chair usually lets them know when the meetings are and the like, or does Mrs. Fritz do that?
Yes, she's been attending, but yes, that would then follow.
Okay.
And I
also
will
the-
notify the committee.
And the recreation director needs to know too.
Exactly, part of the committee. Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Yablonsky, we'll give you an opportunity to come up here. Why don't you just fill us in where we are right now?
Thanks. Hi, Mike Yablonsky regarding the 4 Mountain Ave property. As you might know by now from the email, that we do have the approval for the short sale. The contract has to close by the 14th, and we intend to close by the 30th of November. So things are moving right along. I just wanted to stop in and let you know that, as we are moving forward as I described last week. So the question I have is, can we get the resolution holding the prior resolution in abeyance pending the closing?
Let me just give you an update as to where we are. Let me give you an update as to where we are. You authorized going out for receipt of bids. There was a issue that was raised concerning whether there were environmental issues at the property. I believe that's right, right? Yes. Yeah, okay. So we were going to retain an environmental expert to go in and do an inspection. I don't know if that's been done or not. Not yet? Okay. So we have not expended any monies on it at this point. So, but that was going to be the process. The process was they were going to go in, see if there was asbestos or anything else that was a problem, because that would need to be disclosed to a bidder so that when they go in, they could deal with that issue. So that's where we're at logistically.
So, Mr. Desiderio, you do real estate all the time. What we saw today and the information that we've received, would you feel comfortable if we held it in abeyance, the steps? We don't have to spend any money if it's going to be
based on Mr. Yablonski's representation, there's going to be a closing by November the 30th. But I guess, Mr. Yablonski, maybe you should articulate what's going to happen post-closing. I mean, you could close and the condition of the property could stay the same, right?
Well, we could, but, time is money. We don't do that.
I understand. So why don't you tell us what your plans are and to give us maybe a timeline
Okay.
on when there'll be something meaningful done to improve the property?
Okay. Well, the first thing we do is we bring in the tree crew and the landscaping crew. If anybody's driven past 52 Oakland Road in the past week or so, you'll see that there's been a marked improvement in the appearance of the property as we took out all the overgrown vine-covered trees and trimmed everything back from the house. You can actually see the house now. We would do the same thing immediately with 4 Mountain Avenue, is to clear up the landscaping and make sure that the house looks appropriate from the street. At that point, we get into the architecture and getting plans out, and then submit them to Mr. Mittermeier for his approval so we can pull the appropriate permits. Until we get the building permits, the only other thing we would be able to do is request that Mr. Mittermeier gives us a non-structural demo permit so that we could go through the house and remove any materials that are not going to be salvaged in the renovation. We'll just go through and gut the basement and things of that nature.
Just a question. That's a sequence. Could the landscaping, just again, just for the sake of understanding, around when? I know you said time is money, but is that something that will happen like in the first 30 days, or is that
No,
something
it typically happens immediately. Okay. We got access to 52 Oakland Road. Friday of last week, we were in there Saturday.
Okay.
I would suggest that we hold everything, not spend money. We have a meeting on December 1st and December 15th, and we can monitor the situation.
All right, thank you very much.
So I think we just instruct the staff to suspend the work on this.
Yeah, I don't know if we've lined up the environmental person. Maybe we should just move forward and have that person ready to go without spending any money.
Yeah, as long as we don't spend any money. Right. But I think the feeling of the Township Committee is we have some level of comfort here. Okay. And let's not spend any money, but let's, get ready in case we do.
Okay, yeah, I said the same thing to Bob, was, just hold off until I got to talk to you folks before we go spending your money.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And excuse me, Mr. Yablonski? Mr. Yablonski? Yes. And you're going to report back to us on the closing?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll, between Mifflin Hayes and I, we'll keep you informed.
I don't want you to lose interest. So
No, we're interested, trust me. All right, thank you.
Mayor. Yes, we are advertising on Thursday, though, for a bid for demolition.
Okay.
Just so you know. It's in the paper. We can't pull it back.
Right. Okay. One thing, we also talked at Code Committee about demolishing a bumper to bumper on Springfield Avenue, but we held that in abeyance because this was a greater priority. Did we move forward? We have that money there. Can we move forward in having Mr. Mittermeier think about what it would cost there, and maybe that's also going to need some environmental situation.
So we'll ask Mr. Mittermeier to at least get some preliminary idea of what the cost will be, to see if we have it in our budget now, and all right, and then we'll report to you.
Yeah. Okay. Because if we could do this before the end of the year, get a contract out to demolish that. It's possible.
Possible. It is possible.
Yep. Okay. We have 2 ordinances on final passage. The first is item number 8. This is where you guys have to read the ordinance.
Yes. Ordinance on final passage. Bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of an ambulance for the fire department in and about the Township of Maplewood in the County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating $260,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of 247,000 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Okay, this is ordinance 2799-15. This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Mr. Manning, just so we're clear, we have to bond for a first aid ambulance, right?
Yes,
For our fire department.
yes, to replace the one that was damaged in the fire.
Right, okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this particular ordinance? Okay, seeing no one, will close the public hearing, and Mrs. Larrier, can we get a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Any discussion? And just to remind you, the information we received, we had a fire in our firehouse. The ambulance caught on fire. Then we have insurance. The insurance will pay for it, but we don't have it. We don't have that payment now. So what we are doing is going out and bonding because we need this this first aid ambulance. And when we settle with the insurance company, then we'll replenish the fund. Is that correct?
Great, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Passed. We have another ordinance on file, number 9.
Ordinance on final passage and ordinance authorizing ordinance number 2800-15, an ordinance authorizing amendment to and assignment of the tax agreement with Maplewood Redeveloper LLC for property commonly known as the post office site. This ordinance will permit Maplewood Redeveloper LLC to assign its existing tax agreement with the township to JMF Maplewood LLC and Gladstone at Maplewood LLC.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Before we get to the public hearing, I just would like to let people know, because I think there was a little confusion in the internet world today. The sale of the building was governed by a resolution that we passed at the last meeting, and the closing has occurred today. It occurred this afternoon. The resolution was 215-15. That dealt with the sale of the property, and it authorized the closing to occur today. So that closing has occurred late this afternoon, and the property now belongs to JMF. Additionally, I'd like to report that in the last round of negotiations on the sale, we were able to come to an agreement with Mr. Forgione for him to make an additional $100,000 contribution to the Affordable Housing Fund. So we now will have $200,000 that's going to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for use in our affordable housing rehab program. Additionally, we got another $5,000 additional payment, and that is for locating the loading zone in the Rickleton Square parking lot. So all those agreements were signed today, and now tonight we are talking about making some changes to the tax agreement. So with that, I just wanted to share that information with you so that you're fully up to date on where we are. And if there's anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance, the time would be now, and please come up and give us your name and your address.
Mayor, if I may, just one small correction. The property owners are Maplewood Redevelopers, the property owners are JMF Maplewood LLC and Gladstone at Maplewood LLC are the actual owners of the property.
Okay.
David Humer, 26 Nelson Place. I had sent you an email. I would urge you to table this until you have determined from JMF, since you granted a pilot to him based on financial information he provided you in April, and since the financial information on the viability of the project has changed for him since he sold some of his interest for consideration, presumably that was not mentioned when he asked you for the pilot. Would ask you to table it, find out what the consideration is, and adjust the pilot by that amount. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee on this ordinance? Seeing no one else, we'll close the hearing. And Mr. Brownlee, can we get a motion?
Yes, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a past ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Mr. Ryan?
Second.
Any discussion?
Brownlee?
Oh, hold on. Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you very much. We now have two discussion items. The first is the establishment of a Township Sustainability Committee. Ms. Leventhal?
At the Environmental Subcommittee, for a period of a couple of months, Mayor has been discussing with us something that I think is actually overdue. We're looking to create a Township Sustainability Committee, which would take the place of the Environmental Subcommittee of the Township Committee. But let me explain, it expands the role rather than truly changes it. The Township Sustainability Committee would coordinate the planning and implementation of township and community-based sustainability projects. It would focus on, for example, projects like energy performance of municipal buildings, vehicle fleet being more fuel efficient, expanding renewable energy, and township operations becoming more sustainable. In addition, work would include coordinating the Maplewood Green Team and the Township's Environmental Advisory Committee. Actually, the Green Team is the Maplewood Advisory Committee, the Green Advisory Committee, I'm sorry. So with that as an overall picture where we've had the Environmental Subcommittee consisting of the mayor, another township committee person, our administrator, our public works director, calling in other people from time to time, and the heads of, or the representatives from the Environmental Advisory Committee and the Green Team Advisory Committee. So those people would remain, but we would be adding our engineer, our health officer, director of community development, and someone from the planning board. The people from the planning board, environmental advisory committee, and the green team would be, the actual individuals would be approved by the township committee on a yearly basis. And this committee would ensure that the sustainability principles and practices are integrated into policy planning and development decisions of the township and its boards and committees, for example, the planning board. This is, I think, the piece that's happened from time to time, but it hasn't been truly in the mission of any particular group. And it comes up from time to time as issues come up, and it's now being brought together so that the whole thing is integrated. There's particulars, like it would meet at least every 2 months. The members would each have 1 vote, and others may be invited. I think I have covered everything. I very, very much support this as a way of bringing sustainability to all of the leadership of the township and pulling in a coordination between the township and the citizen volunteer groups. I think it will help us move forward in in being more coordinated. We'll be more effective in being able to be more sustainable. One of the other goals is to continue to attain the highest possible rating with Sustainable Jersey. As you know, we have silver now, which is the highest. So I recommend to my colleagues that we do create this ordinance, change the Environmental Advisory Committee ordinance. As you saw in the memo, there's one small section that would come out. Oh, no, this is the subcommittee, I'm sorry, the Environmental Subcommittee would come out, and this would go in. This actually affects our bylaws for January 1st.
Well, yeah, this would have to be a new ordinance because it's a new entity.
Mhm.
And then the elimination of the environmental subcommittee of the
None,
township would be dealt with in resolution 116, which is, talks
bylaws.
about our organizational and the bylaws, so.
Gotcha.
But Mrs. Larry, you asked a question about, how many committees do we need? We're not increasing the committees. This essentially is the same, but I think what we heard from Ms. Leventhal is that this is really bringing everybody to the table, and particularly the department heads, and Mr. Manning, you're very supportive of this, so that we could have department heads who are actually asked to implement things at the table, at the front end, so that they could give us guidance, they could give us some real practical information on what might or might not work, so we can marry the policy people and the implementers. And you think this is a worthy endeavor?
Absolutely. Yes, I fully support this.
I'm sorry, when I first read it, I didn't understand that we were actually eliminating the environmental advisory. That's
the Environmental Subcommittee.
The Environmental Subcommittee, sorry.
Tongue-tied.
Just a small question. When you were speaking about it, you said the committee consists of the mayor and one other member of the township committee. Now I understand for this particular mayor that it makes sense to have the mayor be on the committee, but maybe we should word it as two members of the township committee. It's not necessarily important that it be the mayor, and perhaps the two members of the township committee that are most aligned or best equipped or most interested or whatever in doing this work would be better equipped than, a different mayor.
I have a mixed reaction to that. I definitely see your point. I think that we should all get equipped to do this kind of thing. And I think that to ask our department heads to move forward, to make this part of their thinking, their culture, I think we do need the authority of the mayor as well as the administrator there.
One of the first drafts had that, the mayor or his or her representative, and it was the members, it was citizen members that asked that we change it to make it to the mayor. And I think as we'll be there at the Sustainable Jersey Luncheon tomorrow, and I think when we see the towns that get the awards and are leaders in this, there is some strong leadership from the mayor. So that's what
we have strong leadership from the mayor, so that's not my point, and I'm not disputing your personal.
Right, no, I understand. And I think whoever this might be, I think the request from the citizens was to make sure that that person would be sitting at the table. So.
In fact, the mayor, whoever is mayor, would be the chair. So the person might have to learn some things.
Yeah, fair enough.
When it's.
So if we're okay with this, we'd like to get it. Yes, I'm sorry, Mr.
Actually, I did have one thought, and actually was subsequent to India's feedback and reading about it a bit later. On number 2, and by the way, I'm in favor of this. I'm fully on board with it. Number 2, the TSC Township shall ensure that the sustainability principles and practices are integrated into policy planning and development decisions of the township and its boards and committees. Wanted to make sure that embedded in that is a perspective that is not just intra-municipal, but inter-municipal as well, meaning that the principles, there may be some things that we might choose to do as a township which need to take into account the broader context in which this municipality exists. In other words, there may be some decisions we might make that may seem to be less than whatever from an intra-municipal perspective, but within the context of, the entire area, it might be advantageous to make a different decision. And so I just wanted to make sure that macro or broader perspective is included or embedded in number 2. I don't know that the wording necessarily needs to be changed to address that, but I just wanted to make sure that that context didn't get lost.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. Just as an example, when we were talking about exploring community energy aggregation, we were looking at, should we be doing it as multi-municipal? So that we could have a broader impact and we can get better. And certainly, there may be other things that we can talk about, even the stuff we're doing with the Royal River, the sustainability of the flooding and all that, which is a multi-municipality. I don't know if do you think we should put the word, I mean, you're saying the concept could be here. Do you think would you feel more comfortable we got a word in there, or do you think it's okay the way it is?
You know, I hadn't wordsmithed it, to be honest. And again, I confess that I kind of came up with this concept a bit late in the game to maybe have a word on hand right now to add in. I'd be thinking kind of on the spot. And again, I'm in favor of it. It's not like, oh, I don't want to do it, but I'm not really sure how to.
Well, why don't we
I want to make sure that doesn't get lost. But, and by the way, and some of these things may govern some of the development decisions that we might make as well. And so that's why I wanted to make sure that that didn't get lost. And it's kind of embedded in number 2, but it says sustainability principles, which one could interpret as, that's not just an intra-municipal thing. Sustainability principles are, can be applied in a broader thing, but I don't know. I just want to make sure that doesn't get lost.
Well, maybe what we could do, because we're going to have Mr. Desiderio put this into an ordinance form, maybe we could, if anybody has, if you can think of something. I mean, it also might,
Don't forget, if you really want to get this done by the end of the year, you have to introduce it next meeting.
I don't want to hold it up. I just.
What about putting it in number 3? The TSC shall monitor and guide the township's progress in meeting agreed upon sustainability goals and objectives within the township and with its partners.
Well, I think
It's intergovernmental part. I mean, we already have it with Maplewood, for example.
Right.
And as you've mentioned, really bigger things.
I guess to me, it belongs in number 2.
Okay.
That's kind of what it's saying is, incorporate these principles. And so I just want to make sure those principles include macro level considerations.
what if we put it in number 1, it says the TSC shall coordinate the planning and implementation of municipal, intergovernmental, and community-based sustainability projects.
It's fine.
That work?
I would prefer municipal, community-based, and intergovernmental.
That's fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
Well, just give it to me again, okay? Coordinate the planning and implementation of municipal.
Comma.
Yeah, you have it, right?
I have it right in front of me.
Yeah, so municipal, community-based, and intergovernmental. Then we're good to go. Okay? And you're okay about, okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Desiderio?
Yes.
We'll see it in your prose, your ordinance prose.
So I put it on for the first, final
Yes.
on the 15th.
Yes.
Okay,
We want it in place for January.
understood.
And then we'll work with you, because there's going to be some other changes to the bylaws and the resolution.
But that's,
Oh, yeah, we can work that closer to the beginning of the year. Okay, the second item for discussion, it changes the Springfield Avenue redevelopment areas. And I just wanted to circle back because we did make the changes that we talked about here, particularly around offices and professional offices. And that is in page 6. We agreed, we made it, as we said, we were going to make it synonymous with our other work we did with pedestrian retail zones. So it says permitted uses, Springfield Avenue, professional offices, and then offices, but not on the street level. And that's exactly what we did with the other one. So the question here is whether the planning board would be able to deal with this. Mr. Desiderio, let me ask you a question. If the township committee passed it this year, but the planning board didn't get it until 2016, it wouldn't be
They have to review it before final.
Right, so we can't introduce it. Now, there's another way we could do it. We could send it to the planning board for their review.
They have suggested to us that they will not do that. I think Mr. Ryan reported that back, that they wanted in, as I understood it, because I thought that was always a good way to do it.
Right.
But my understanding is they wanted it to be introduced in the ordinance and they wanted to review it after the introduction. Am I wrong about that, Mr. Ryan?
No, I think that's correct.
Yeah, I hesitate to spend the money to publish this because I'm not sure we're going to get to it on the 8th.
No, I don't think we will. I think.
We may have to
well,
just kick this into 2016.
Introduce it at the,
Okay.
introduce it in January. I think it just makes sense because,
Well-
you're right, if you publish it, you'll have to republish it.
If that be the case, then I would suggest that you'd want to probably wait to the second meeting in January so that you can get the input from the new members.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Although, at least one of the new
second
members,
meeting, third meeting,
one of the new members been on the planning board, so.
I understand.
Okay. So we're done with our discussion items. We have the consent agenda. Can we get a motion for that?
Yes.
Now I'm going to be abstaining, and I
Yeah, we'll just,
also have a question.
okay. Why don't you,
I move
tell us
for-
what you, hold on.
Let me
sorry.
move for adoption of the items on the
Go ahead.
consent agenda.
Go ahead.
Second,
No, you can't second if you're going to
because I'm
abstain.
abstaining.
Second.
Okay. We have a question and an abstention.
My abstention is on the minutes, since I was ill for the last meeting.
All right.
And then number 4, what exactly was that for? This is the reduction in the amount of the performance guarantee for various improvements being installed by Winter Chapel International.
Yeah, do you know it? Just say who you are for the purposes of, although you're here to hear it.
I'm Malavasi, Township Engineer. This is a resolution to reduce the performance bond. The Winters Chapel, which is converting an industrial building on Burnett Avenue to a chapel, posted a cash performance bond for their site improvements.
Okay.
They are allowed by law to ask for a reduction in that, up to 30% of the original. And they have asked for that reduction. Mr. Bratt has been inspecting the site improvements and believes that the amount of the reduction they have asked for is appropriate.
In other words, the work that they did has been partially completed.
Right.
So the amount of their performance bond is therefore being reduced.
Okay.
Still in a sufficient amount to guarantee the continued performance of what needs to be done.
That's correct. There's enough money left over to finish the project if they don't.
Okay, that I had no problem with that. It just isn't, I mean, when you mention block and lot, it's not very transparent to, even to me. So it's on Burnett Avenue.
Yes. I don't recall the address.
248, I think, or
It's across from Marion.
Yeah, it's the last block, it's the last building in Maplewood as you're going towards Union on the left-hand side.
Okay.
And this is rather
I can't
unique because they
visually-
post the entire performance guarantee in cash.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Very odd. Yeah.
Okay. Please call the roll on the consent agenda.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to our second public comment period. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee?
John Harvey, 8 Inwood Place, Maplewood, New Jersey. 2 issues. One was listening to the proposal for the Sustainability Committee. You know, you're seeing it in national politics, and I think trying to create an ordinance or government for everything that we do is foolish. And I think we should be reaching out some grassroots. Personal opinion, I would also say that this is not the Township Committee that should hold the banner for sustainability. I think he's had a huge opportunity with maintaining the building at the post office redevelopment to reset the standard. And my observation is what we do from a sustainability standpoint to date is not banner wavering. So 2 points. One is I think you should look for local people that have experience with sustainability rather than coming up with an ordinance
that, you know, who cares if it's multi-generational, multifunctional and stuff like that. This is not the group to hold the banner for sustainability. Secondly, and I think it's the question to you related to the improvements of the Women's Club. I had a tour of the Women's Club this past week because I'm holding an event there, a community event. And when you say redid the bathrooms and refurbished the bathrooms, I went through them, and those bathroom refurbishings are not venue quality refurbishings. So, and even, you know, we were talking about the layer on the floor when the fellow showed us that you redid the floor. It's incredibly poor quality from a finishing standpoint. So I would really encourage you that if you are serious about making this a venue that's going to somehow figure out how to pay the $1 million we paid for it and the $2 million that Joe said it's going to restore, $56,000 a year is not going to do that. So you're either going to have to go for it or not go for it. And I just feel, I live 2 houses away, and I can tell you the exterior of that building is deteriorating. And I asked my question before, it wasn't about what you've done. My question is about what's the plan going forward and where's the money coming from. And again, I have my own personal opinions about the redevelopment experience of this group, which are not favorable, but I think you just have to look at the evidence of it. And if there's no plan to say, okay, we're going to do this and make this much revenue from renting that particular facility, then my question is, why did we use taxpayer money to buy it and commit to it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Good evening, Inda Sexer, 57 Euclid Avenue. I have a question about your closing on the post office. You said that JMF has paid $5,000 for the purchase of the loading area in
No.
Rickleton. Can you explain what that $5,000 was for?
Yes, because we agreed to establish a loading zone in Rickleton Square. We asked them to provide a $5,000 payment in consideration of that. It doesn't mean that they're renting it, that they're buying it. It's just a $5,000 contribution as part of the sale.
Contribution to what?
To the town. Payment to the town.
So they don't own that parking spot?
No.
And will they pay that on a yearly basis?
No.
Or is that a one-time thing?
One time.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Seeing no one, will close the second public hearing. Mr. Manning.
Next week, next Monday, will be the last Monday for this year for the farmers market. So there are still good things going there. It's the week of Thanksgiving. Get some fresh produce for the Thanksgiving table. And that's all that I have to report. Oh, I'm sorry. Pretty sure that I'll be coming back to you at the next meeting with 2 more settled contracts using memorandums of understanding.
Very good.
Nice.
Glad to hear it. Mr. Manning, I have
Yes, sir.
one thing I just want to alert you to. When I mentioned earlier that the chief and the captain, lieutenant, and I met with Tuscan school parents and administrators. One thing I raised was we've done, as we did at Borden Park years ago, and I think even before you were here, and we did at Jacoby Street, we do walkthroughs where we take the department heads and so I'd like to schedule that maybe early December to just do a walkthrough around the Tuscan, Harvard, Valley, Prospect area, and just take a look at some things. One issue, and this actually came up when we were meeting with the Valley Street Neighborhood Association, when Mr. Manning, you and I met with them a couple of years ago, is the sidewalk where the country club is, from Baker down. The sidewalk is narrow. It certainly is not wide enough to accommodate the amount of traffic, school and stroller traffic there. So I think we want to take a look at that and then come up with a proposal that we can go to the country club with to see if we can resolve that issue there. Okay, so we'll work together in scheduling that walkthrough.
Else?
Chris?
Mr. Desiderio?
I have no report, Mayor.
Ms. Fritzen?
No report.
You don't look like Ms. Fritzen.
She didn't report, okay.
She's not even Ms. Fritz.
Trying to get no report from the clerk. I finally got it.
Very good. Very good. Mr. Ryan?
So, this has been in the press, so I don't feel guilty about bringing it up here. But a number of us had the opportunity to attend the retirement dinner for Mayor Vic DeLuca from his day job as running the Jesse Smith Noyes Foundation. Now, Vic's been a friend of mine for a long time, so I knew a lot about him, and I knew a lot about the work that he did, but I have to say it was a real pleasure seeing so many people from Vic's life coming out to embarrass him. Although not enough, nearly, I think, and to honor him and to honor his work in the field, and really a lot of the groundbreaking work that he did in the field. Probably not enough was said, and I probably won't embarrass him enough. But I'd like to repeat just one or two of the things that I said at this event on Friday night. Not the joke with your female colleague. No, that's out. But I really think that listening to these folks talk about Vic's contribution to his field was really inspirational. It really was, and really very commendable. And I see why all these people liked working with you, and I understand why they're going to miss you. So I hope you enjoy your retirement. I could have been more embarrassing.
You were pretty good Friday night. Mrs. Larrier?
Yes, I have no report, but I would echo my congratulations. I actually was really surprised and just awestruck by some of the history that is Victor DeLuca. I will say, however, that nothing struck me so surprised as seeing Vic DeLuca with shoulder-length black hair. And
your envelope.
But no report, Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Leventhal?
I'd also like to congratulate you on your retirement from a long and successful career.
Thank you.
I have a couple of things. Slow Food North Jersey, which we know as the Indoor Farmers Market, is coming back twice this winter. They're coming back on Sunday, the 13th of December, and they're also coming back on Super Bowl Sunday. Not being a football fan, I can't tell you when that is. But it looks like it's either January 31st or February 6th, something like that. And Maplewood Loves Wellness is co-sponsoring that. Maplewood Loves Wellness is also co-sponsoring another session of the YouthNet, one of the YouthNet clubs, with the food pantry at Our Lady of Sorrows run by MEND. That'll be in December. And I'd like to congratulate our mayor, Joe Manning, our administrator, and our assistant administrator, Cesa, because they are being honored by the Management Association down at the League of Municipalities this week. And also, Mr. DeLuca is being honored by the League for 10-year service as a mayor. So that's my report.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Mr. Brownlee?
I have no report, but I'd like to echo my congratulations to you as well. And I'll keep it short.
Thank you. I have a few things. Tonight, the Broadway Furball 2 is happening, where Furry Hearts Rescue is having a fundraiser over at the Woodland. And I stopped over there before the meeting, and they're all excited, and they're going to have a full house. So we're really happy that they're moving along. And I saw Mr. Rowe, he was on his way over there to see if he could just lend a hand and be supportive. This last Wednesday, we had the Veterans Day ceremony here, which was just a terrific opportunity to recognize the veterans in our community. And we even had some folks here from other towns, and one gentleman who grew up here on Brookwood Road and came back and told us about how he played across the street and how thankful he was for doing it. We had a great participation. We had some new religious representatives here, Reverend Valencia Norman and Reverend Derwin Johnson, and both of them are members of our Clergy Alliance. And we were able to get them to come in and do the invocation and benediction. And we had Father Jim Worth over at St. Joseph's Church doing songs for us. He was terrific also. So it was a great event, and we want to thank Liz Fritzen and the clerk's office for all their work for that. And on Thursday evening, I went up to the graduation ceremony at the Basic Firefighter Class 15-2. The chief had sent us an email saying that our two firefighter candidate, or cadets rather, were did so well there that they were asked to be in the honor guard. So they were. One carried the flag and one carried an axe. And then it's a quite detailed graduation, but they give away a couple of awards, and one is the Robert Melson Certificate of Merit Award, and this is an award that is voted on secretly by all the cadets for the person who they think is the best. And our cadet, Kevin Herbert, was the winner of that. So he received that award, and I'm not sure, I guess they're ready to come on the scene pretty soon, right? They graduated, they should, maybe they're across the street right now, so. And then wanted to mention that we talked here about this building on the corner of Prospect and Springfield and the Verizon antenna. We brought it to the Springfield Avenue Partnership. We brought it back here, talked about some of their concerns that they have. We do have a meeting on November 30th, luckily my first day of retirement, and we will hopefully be able to come back with a report on December 1st if we were able to see if we can work some of these things out. So that's moving ahead. And I think there was one other thing, but I think that's enough.
Move to adjourn.
A second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. All right, meeting is adjourned. We'll see you on December 1st, 2015.